But let's move into the last segment, and we're going to talk about the end of GarPax, hopefully, in Chicago. We are going to welcome in our patron, Pat. Pat, first off, we want to thank you for being on the podcast. I know Ricky's excited to be talking about some Chicago Bulls, so thank you for being on. Thanks for being a patron.
Oh, no thanks. No problem, guys. Thanks for having me on. It's been a while, but I'm glad to be back, and especially to talk about the great duo of GarPax.
So I want to get your feelings first, because I know Ricky's feelings, I know Dave's feelings of the roller coaster of a ride that has been the 2018-2019 Chicago Bulls, at least season so far. Obviously, the firing of Fred Hoiberg, the hiring of Jim Boylan, and then you just see the lack of, coherency or just a lack of brain functioning from Gar Forman and John Paxson. So what have you thought so far of this Bulls season? Has it been a roller coaster for you, or has it just been kind of just a depression? Just, someone just keep punching you over and over again. What's your feelings been so far?
It's definitely the punching over. Because every day, since the Bulls have fired Fred Hoiberg and since Boylan has taken over, like every day it's just a different kind of another reason to make fun of the Bulls. Either they're going back to 1999 with their isolation post-ups that Boylan wants to champion, or it's the players not progressing as we thought they would this season. Markkanen's not taking a leap forward. Zach LaVine not taking a leap forward. Chris Dunn still shoots his mid-range jumpers that everybody bags him for. And when those guys got injured at the beginning of the season, you saw that the absolute lack of depth that GarPax would say at the beginning, we're too deep at every position. And they just weren't that way. They had no depth. They had nobody to carry the torch. They had nobody to keep them decently competitive while those guys are injured. And who built the roster? GarPax. Who fired the coach and replaced him with a guy who does not know how to work with today's players or work with today's NBA? GarPax. And so all of that is just let me okay, this has got to be the worst season I've seen as a Bulls fan, and I don't see any reason for GarPax to stay on, seeing as they're the ones who have perpetrated every decision that has led them to this point. And now we just have to sit back and watch the Bulls lose by 20 every night, and it sucks.
I think that's a claim that I haven't heard from Bulls fans, but I don't think it's too surprising that this is the worst Bulls season that fans have seen. Personally, I haven't been long enough to actually determine.
I think sucks to watch games.
That would make sense, but at least take me through it, because you have been a Bulls fan for a while, Ricky. I know obviously you look at the post-Michael days, and it kind of made sense that team was bad. They were still building up. Yeah. Has this been the toughest season for you to follow as well?
Well, the toughest thing about this season has been when Michael retired, it was just we lost the greatest player. That's why we stink. Whereas this, it kind of feels like management and the coaching is over here on the right. The players are over here on the left. And I was reading an article earlier today. I pulled it up just now from Bloggable SB Nation, and they in the article quote a Daryl Mayberry of The Athletic had an article where I guess he put this little excerpt in there where he said, so based on almost everything I'm hearing and have heard for 24 games now, everyone and everything seems to be the issue except the coaching staff. I'm not buying it. I'm not sure why everyone is so hesitant to speak candidly about the coaches. I get that it's deemed unprofessional to throw a comrade under the bus, but that's not even what I'm saying here. Nobody wants to say anything. And Boylan keeps talking more about grit and toughness rather than schemes and tactics, and it'll take to get teams out of this mess. And then they even have quotes from players, and it's Laurie's out there saying we weren't going under screens, they killed us on switches, we got to be doing more of that. And then you got Zach going yeah, you look up, you're down 15 and 20, it's discouraging. He's I'm going to fight for every ball, but he's you look at the Hawks and they're out there moving the ball, playing with space. He's that's what we should be doing. And it kills me that we've always hated GarPax. Let's be honest. Bulls fans, we've had a hate-hate relationship, it seems, with GarPax. And the thing that's killed me the most is, Pat might get this a little bit, was whenever John Paxson takes the podium, he's got to me, he's got the John Gross effect where you don't win games, but after a press conference, you say all the right things to make me think, you're a good guy. I can't be mad at you. Okay, it's okay. That was John Gross in Illinois, where it was we weren't winning games at the end, but I would see a press conference with John Gross and I would be excited. I'd be excited. I think he's a good guy. And it's I am on the point of let's just burn the whole thing down, start from the beginning. Just burn everything except the players. Just keep the players, burn everything up, and start all over.
Clarifying that one for us, Ricky.
Because our players aren't bad. Mm-hmm. That's the thing that confuses me. Our players aren't bad.
But they aren't so great either.
Well, real quick,
they're not championship level, but we're not terrible.
Before we get to that, I do want to go to Pat. And do you have that effect with Paxson that Ricky's describing with the John Gross effect?
I kind of do because Paxson is very well spoken and he is really good at explaining his decisions in a way to the media. I mean, he's done this for 20 or 30 years, what it seems like. So you expect him to be good at that. And also, Paxson has just been with the Bulls for so long. He has a championship ring. He played with Michael Jordan. So there's always that effect of okay, he does know the organization well. But it also, after a while, you just get if it's not going to get any better and you don't see a direction of how they could maneuver it to make it better, and especially after this season where everything is just stepped back in the worst possible way, you lose your faith after a while, no matter how many times Paxson explains himself.
Mm-hmm. And Dave, I mean, you've mentioned obviously that this has been a tough season for you to watch. I mean, you said at least when you were watching Fred Hoiberg lose, it was fun. Watching Boylan, it hasn't been fun. You see that. With Paxson, although he is a likable guy, he does have ties with the organization. His ineptitude, it just seems even if he was trying to do it on purpose, no one could mess up this much on purpose. You're just failing in every single possible way. So what is the direction for the Bulls? What's any direction that is possible for the Chicago Bulls? What's the next step for this franchise in your mind that needs to be done?
Do you think, in my opinion, or what's actually going to happen?
We'll get to what's actually going to happen because obviously we're saying that this should be the end for GarPax.
Yeah.
Bulls fans have been saying this for I think about 6 years now that it should be the end of GarPaxson's reign. But obviously that's different than what Jerry's going to do. So at least in your opinion, and kind of taking what Pat said about the direction of the Bulls, what do you see as the possible directions for the Chicago Bulls?
I mean, I'm still with Jerry. You probably got to get rid of another player to get some more cash considerations for Machado.
That $75K is going to be huge.
I mean, we got cash considerations from the Rockets.
That's what I'm saying. We need some more.
$75K from him.
There you go, Pat. Now you're in the Bulls mood.
You picked the topic, Pat. I don't feel too sorry.
I know.
But in all likelihood, this is still a team with a couple of good pieces on it. And, we'll have to shake out to see what is our roster moving forward. I think very likely we're hoping Levine is still our guy. Lowry's our guy. Wendell, I know he just got hurt, but he'll be out. He'll be fine later or next year. I don't even know how long it's going to be for his, I think, thumb injury, right? Surgery. But yeah, Hutch, we'll see. He's someone who I really expect a lot out of because we literally don't have a starting three to start the year, and yet he has not found any consistency nor.
He's still young.
I know.
That's what I think.
But he's not the youngest because remember, he's a 3-year college player. I mean, we were expecting a ready-made product. Not so much. So that's why I struggle when I watch Archie Diacono get minutes, when I watch guys like Shaq Harrelson get minutes, when as I continue to name players, I'm like, man,
you're just getting more and more angry.
Between Blakeney out there getting way too many minutes, Felicio, horrible. The problem. The problem is that we make poor decisions in free agency and we make poor trades. We are we got so lucky with the Jimmy Butler deal. It just for context, you have no idea how incredibly lucky it was to get back not only Zach LaVine, Lowry, and Chris Dunn. That was freaking miracle for Chicago. That was Derrick Rose miracle number 1, that trade number 2. But that did set us up to kind of skip the process a little bit because I think that it's pros and cons to that. We got good talent, but we're also, already paying for Zach LaVine's contract, and we didn't necessarily bottom out as hard as a team like Phoenix or the 76ers did, where they're acquiring these very, very good players. Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton combo, obviously Josh Jackson, hit or miss, we'll see.
Well, real quick, I will say Booker was a lower pick than Chris Dunn. He was 11, I think. So he was a lower pick than 13. 13. He was a lower pick than LaVine. He was a lower pick than Markin and Chris Dunn as well.
Yeah.
And
they picked a stud, but I'm saying like DeAndre Ayton was their dude, and then they got Josh Jackson as well at the top. So I'm not even going to mention the Dragon Bender thing. We'll see. He just doubles, man. Yeah. He's got hope still. But my point being is, we didn't bottom out, so we don't have that glut of top-end talent, and we're already paying for Zach's contract. So we're in an interesting position where if this year we truly do bottom out and we can go get ourselves, a top 5 pick like we're expected to right now, it really does set us up in a great position. But the confidence in Jim Boylen and the faith in the front office to do the right thing with the money we're going to have available in free agency is terrifying to me. I think both of those things, like if we go in free agency with Jim Boylen as our head coach and whoever we end up with in the draft, I don't know that we're going to be able to recruit the talent we want to bring to Chicago.
Well, then let's get into what's going to happen, because you're bringing up Boylen, you're bringing up the front office. Obviously, the ideal direction is to at least try to get rid of Boylen, get rid of GarPax. That's evident. That is clear. And Pat, with this, what do you think will actually happen? Because obviously Bulls fans are hoping Gar Forman gets relieved, John Paxson gets relieved, and Jerry finally makes those decisions. I think Michael's more running the Bulls than Jerry is at the point, but Jerry is the majority owner. What do you think is truly going to happen in actuality with the Chicago Bulls? Will they be able to use that cap space to get free agents? What's the next step for the Chicago Bulls in all likelihood?
So this is the part where I struggle with, because in theory, GarPax should be gone. Like, they should be out of there. But every time you look in the media, and I think Casey Johnson has said this in the media many times, like he actually said the Reinsdorf's value management. I know fans get tired of hearing it, but until that changes, that's what the fans will hear. And you're just like, oh, come on, really? But what I think will happen is I don't see Boylen staying, seeing as how they've gotten worse in every single category that they've even could possibly get worse in this season. I don't see him there, so I still see GarPax staying. But the issue is, I don't think that GarPax will have an easy time bringing in free agents because of the whole way the Jabari Parker situation has been handled. I think that's going to set a really bad taste in a lot of potential free agents' mouths. And if they don't get rid of Boylen for some strange reason, free agents will just look at Chicago and look at the way they play and just go like, that's not a modern offense. Like, I don't want anything to do with that. I don't care if they offer me a lot of money. Like, I can't succeed there. And I don't care if it's a big city either. I'm going to go somewhere else where they'll actually learn how to play in a modern offense and they actually have a plan. So it's the lack of seeming direction and the way that GarPax can turn off free agents. And that just doesn't give me a lot of confidence that they will actually do the right thing. Although if they do get rid of Jim Boylen, that'll show me, okay, at least they know something about what's going on. But like after they've just backed him, that's even becoming a doubt for me right now.
I'll be completely honest. I'm getting flashbacks to, I can't even remember. What was they all run together at this point, but it was the year where Paul Gasol was on his last year with us.
It was 2 years ago.
And we were like, we need to trade him at the trade deadline, and nothing happened. Every time I check the ticker to see if Robin Lopez is in talks or Jabari's in talks, I'm going through Vietnam flashbacks because I'm at this point I'm sitting there going, we're not going to move these guys. We're going to sit. The Warriors apparently wanted Rolo, and we were like, let's just have a big dick contest right now. No, you can't have them. And then they just, hey, we're going to play them big minutes because you want them, but we're just going to throw them in your face. And I feel like with GarPax, one thing I sit there, and this is like a mini thing, if Rolo or Jabari are on this team February 8th, if I'm Reinsdorf, I go, here's your
But will
fired.
that actually happen? Because right now
it won't. We can talk to we're blue in the face. It ain't gonna happen, and that's what makes me angry. It's sad.
Why? Let's talk about why it won't happen. Why will Reinsdorf not finally just wake up, either Michael or Jerry?
It sucks.
But he's not stupid. you can't make this much money. You can't have two teams in the third largest market and be this
or
stupid.
can you? He could be like, hold my beer, Sean.
I mean, look, the money keeps rolling in is the problem.
And Gar Forman's been there since he started as a scout in '98. He's been there ever since. And Paxson, you said player, assistant coach, GM in 2003. We're just too loyal of an organization.
And we keep selling out. We consistently
we
show
love
up
our
to
team
games.
too much, Dave.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing.
I will think, though, I think Michael Reinsdorf does give you a bit of hope that they might let go of both of them, because Michael Reinsdorf I know Jerry's the dad, but he's not, I don't think he's his father. And I think he takes a lot more interest in like the business aspect. And so which means he'll talk more to season ticket holders. And this season, when you see the Bulls get blown up by like 30, 40, 50, and the season ticket holders like, what the hell are we doing? We're getting blown up by 30 points. Then he might lean towards that. I don't know how likely that is, but that does give me a little bit more hope to that. And I know that Paxson has said in an interview like last year, I think when he fired Fred Hoiberg, that if the rebuild doesn't go well, he might not be around, which gives you some hope, but I don't know how much it actually gives you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. There's the sprinklings of accountability being thrown around, and I think that the ultimate goal is that yes, we're going to have to clear out the front office. I think it's likely it happens in the next 3 years. I mean, my money would have been every year. That's the thing, is like my money would have been, it's going to be happening this year for the last 4 years, but that's wishful thinking. In all reality, this is still a very young roster, and because it's a young roster, they're going to give them the benefit of the doubt. And let's see you architect this team up from the ground. And, we watched it happen with, going back, you mentioned, post-Jordan days, we had the Baby Bulls. We had Elton Brand, Curry, Metta World Peace, Jamal Crawford. Like, we had great talent. It just didn't peak at the right time.
Well, at that time, Dave, he was Ron Artest.
He was Ron Artest. Things just didn't line up for us great. Then we entered the Captain Kirk days, and then obviously the Derrick Rose days. It's just like we've done good jobs putting together a team via the draft and some moves. So I think that's why they have been around so long. They've been successful. They've hit those moderate peaks to be like, the Bulls are putting together something nice right now. We didn't really top out well because of the injuries, obviously, with Derrick Rose. But I think that there is still, as angry as I am at this team and as disappointed as I am at like the current performance, in the back of my head, I'm going, we're going to have a great pick this year. We're potentially going to have another pick in this draft, and let's see what we can do given a new head coach. That's the number one thing that needs to change day one.
Well, I want to ask you guys, since you all three are Bulls fans, I thankfully do not have the pleasure of being one, but I want to ask you, and I'm going to go to Pat first. What would turn you off of being a Bulls fan? Is there a limit? Is there a kind of an edge that you would need to be pushed over to not support the team, and not to be not a fan, but just not to pay attention, just to turn them off and just put them off until they actually start doing things for the fan and for the team's health? Because I feel if you go next year with Gar Forman and John Paxson, either of them in their current roles, I think that's a slap in the face to the fans. Would you feel that way, and would you be turned off as a Bulls fan enough to at least stop supporting the team?
If we go another year with Foreman, Paxton, and Boylan coaching and continue to preach that like these guys need to be tougher, they need to have more grit, we're not finishing games well, and they continue to like coach like it's 1999 and not adapt to the modern game, I think that's the point where I'm just like, okay, I'm done. Like, there's nothing else I can do. They're delusional. They don't know how to work in today's NBA. Like, they can suck for a while, but whatever. I think that would probably be my limit. Like, if we had to go through another, like, this has only been going on for 24 games, and I hate it. If I had to go through another full season of this, then I would just put, like, you know what? I'm not watching any more NBA. And it's hard to get into, for me, it's hard to get more into the NBA when I know that my team is just the bottom of the barrel and the laughing stock. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that would be my limit.
Ricky, what's your threshold? Because I know you're, you obviously you bleed red because everyone does, but you bleed Bulls red. You see red.
Well done,
so what's your threshold? Because I know you shook your head when I asked the question, but
I'm never like, oh, it kills me because I'm never going to hate this team. I'm never going to not support this team. I'm never going to not watch this team. Like, but that's who I am as like a fan. I'm a Cubs fan. You want to know how many years into like my younger years before like I officially switched over? It was like everyone's a Sox fan, so I'm a Sox fan. But ever since I switched over and like actually was like I'm a Cubs fan, I went through terrible seasons. Like I feel like that is like predisposed me to just like I can watch Illini basketball and go, this ain't exciting me, but I'm a fan and I'm gonna watch because I love this team, and then it kills me inside. I think I'm just a glutton for punishment. I think that's what I am.
Yep.
But I just with me. There won't be anything, and like that kills me inside a little bit because it's like it's basically like going with Space Jam. I'm chained to the couch watching this team on Moron Mountain signing autographs. That's basically what my life has come to.
Dave, do you have that same threshold, or are you kind of on Pat's side?
No, I'm pretty much screwed. It's sad that even like, we just got done talking about how Bill was so angry at the process. And
Another
I'm like,
Bulls fan.
Another Bulls fan. It's Bulls Heavy Podcast. And I'm like, shit, I would throw a fucking parade if we were just like, yeah, fuck it, we're just doing it, man. Like, we're going all in on the process. And
I wouldn't be...
give me 2 more years, and, this year we're going to get a top 3 pick, next year top 3 pick, the following year top 3 pick. But the thing that kind of is the qualifier there is...
If we had Fred, I wouldn't be mad.
I would be.
Like, this team, watching
so
this team lose sucks.
Well, it's not... Okay, just saying watching this team lose sucks.
It's just not fun.
It's not fun, but it's also not in the best development for the players. It's not in their benefit.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that hurts me the most is watching Jim Boylan...
And they can tell.
...cut minutes, absolutely destroy rotations, and change players' developmental arcs because he feels he knows best. He feels he knows best. He's been around one of the greatest coaches in the NBA, so of course his opinion matters more than everybody else's. And I think that's what hurts me is, we saw high highs out of Zach LaVine on Minnesota. We saw him when he came over. There was a spark to his game. He's exciting to start this year. He was putting up all-star worthy numbers in the East to start this year. And we're like, oh shit, like he's on that Devin Booker level maybe. And then Boylan's like, so have you heard about this 1998 basketball? And your minutes? No, we're gonna just dice them up real nice and fine. And it's just painful. And I think that's the biggest thing is not being able to see these guys develop throughout the year the way that we had hoped them to is what kills me.
A thing with Zach that I will say is since Boylan's been added on as the head coach, his numbers have gone down. He went from 25 points per game to 20. Then he went from 5 rebounds to about 2 rebounds. I mean, he went from 4 assists down to like 3.6. But he has gotten more efficient. He's now at 47, 41. But still, like, you don't see that same impact that it was. Like, when Zach LaVine was at his best at the start of the year, it was fun and exciting. And now it's just depressing. Going back to when I asked Pat first was, it just feels like every single day it somehow gets worse and worse under Jim Boylan. And it's gotten worse and worse every single year under GarPax, and they've gotten so lucky. The fact that they made the playoffs 2 years ago and almost won in the first round was a shocker.
But they had veteran leadership.
We were a Rondo away.
But the fact that team worked because you had the 2 big veterans in Dwayne Wade and Jimmy Butler, obviously, clearly, openly fighting and separating themselves from the rest of the locker room.
We had our MVP, though.
Okay, but you saw, again, they were lucky, is my point. Like they fell into that 8th seed, and the fact that they even gave Boston hell was shocking. That was just because Boston couldn't rebound. Yeah. They fell into the Derrick Rose pick. We talked about it. The 13th worst odds for that. They fell into that. They've consistently gotten lucky, and it's just, I feel like if I was a Bulls fan, I would just feel that at this point, like, there's nothing to cheer for. And until they're gone, there's nothing that I would be able to do because I'm not a sadist like Ricky. I couldn't put myself through this because, and maybe it's because I've been lucky to be a Tom Brady fan. I was right when I was 4 years old choosing hitching my ride to that wagon. But I haven't had that worst of success. Worst of success as a team. I mean, maybe the White Sox, but even then, it's like like it's kind of fun now because we're in the talks of Machado and Harper, and maybe that will turn around. I've seen a world championship in my lifetime, so that's been easier. You guys saw the Bulls win championship, so maybe it like makes it a little bit easier for you guys as well.
Makes it worse.
With the Bears too, we've seen like I've been to a Super Bowl before with the Bears. 2011 we were so close, and obviously there was the tough times with Trustman, but we always had Lovey, and Lovey was consistently putting out a good team, or every other year he's putting out a good team, and then you see now obviously the Nagy stuff that brings a bright light. So
even like with hockey with the Hawks.
Yeah, that as well. With the Bulls though, it's just like you've never felt like. I personally, looking at a team, I've never felt like there's been a solid team there, and the closest you got was with Derek. But even then, like those 2 brief years where it was like, all right, this team's going to be a powerhouse in the East until his injury. Then like that was when the luck flipped on them.
It was just like, fuck you, we're the Heat. I mean, there was LeBron James, and we're always the dark horse to take down LeBron James.
There was that one year we met him. This was my.
You mean the timeout?
No, not that. Not the Cavaliers. That was David Blatt with the Cavaliers. I'm talking Miami Heat. This was when I thought we were the 1 seed because I'm pretty sure we had home court advantage in the Eastern Conference Finals. And I remember game 1, I think we won, and then the Heat just spanked us 4 straight. And it was like, it was the most devastating thing because I was like, this was our year. And then it'll ever be ingrained in the back of my head, the 76er series.
Yeah.
With Omira Sheik at the line and can't hit a freaking free throw in that game. And Spencer Hawes diced us up. Yeah, I hate Spencer Hawes. I don't even know him, but I hate him because of that one series. I want to ask basically Dave and Pat this. Because I saw this on Twitter and I don't know how to feel about it. Kind of moving, let's say GarPax is still here, into draft. Of course, I know that Foreman is going to be at most of the top prospects. Like, the Bulls aren't going to go, hey, we don't need this guy. We're not going to be there. But how would you feel if the Bulls had the 2nd or 3rd overall pick and took John Morant over a Cam Reddish or an RJ Barrett? Either Dave or Pat, whichever wants to take first. Because, I mean, I would rather just take a forward and fix that 3 problem than take a John Morant.
Pat, what's your feelings on this?
I gotta be completely honest. I haven't watched a lot of John Morant, so I don't really know how he stacks up. But
how I would tell you, as someone who hasn't seen him, I mean, I'm surprised you're not watching a ton of Murray State basketball while you're going for your PhD. You're not a degenerate like us with ESPN Plus. But he's a guy that would probably his ceiling would be Russell Westbrook. A little bit better of a shooter. He's got a better stroke at least. We don't know if that's going to be consistent. He's putting up near a triple double at Murray State. He does turn the ball over about like 5 times a game, but I think his assist to turnover ratio is about 2-1. So he has the ability to lead an offense, be explosive, be a pretty good defender. It's just really, can you trust his college numbers and will he translate to the NBA because of the level of competition he's playing?
So I think that's intriguing, but I think we just, at the end of the season, we just have to see how Chris Dunn is doing. And if he's just not improving, then I think you can seriously look at that. And if we don't get the number 1 pick and we get the 2nd or 3rd, and we have a choice between him and Cam Reddish or RJ Barrett or whoever you want, then yeah, I can see that. I can see that happen. But I think we just really need to fix the wing position first, because that's an actual need that the Bulls have. And I'm just not sold on Chandler Hutchinson. Like, I don't know why we promised, like, there's a story that we had promised that that we would take him at that pick. And if that's true, I don't understand why we did that.
I mean, are you telling me that you didn't want a 22-year-old 4-year college player for this young developing team?
See, I don't really want to hear that from you, Dave, because you were totally sold on Hutchinson. So was Ricky.
They told me he was Scottie Pippen.
Yeah, that's what they told me. Let's be honest.
I warned you guys.
Let's be honest, though. The guy Dave really liked went 1 pick before Hutch to the Jazz.
Yeah, he's not doing so hot right now. He just doesn't play defense. They don't play him.
Well, Dave, going with you, because obviously you're a big John Morant supporter. Yep. Would you be fine with them going with the point guard?
I would be. Chris Dunn does not get it done for me. He is a limited point guard. Yes, he's defensively, fantastic, but his mid-range game is antiquated, and I think that it's one of those things where I'm going to say that, and then he's going to pull Ricky Rubio, move on, and find a 3-point shot on his next team and be like, fantastic. But at the same time, I look at John Morant's talent, and I'm like, I would absolutely love to have someone like that because my favorite memories outside of the Jordan days are Derrick Rose, and Derrick Rose was basically uber, running that same Russell Westbrook train of elite athleticism. Derrick obviously the slimmer build, but all just magic in the air. And John Morant kind of gives me that same spark of hope. RJ Barrett absolutely would fit this existing team like a glove. Same with Cam Reddish. I think RJ would be an excellent shooter. And that way, the ball can kind of be split up. We don't have to depend on Chris Dunn so much to be that lead point guard because both Zach and RJ can kind of split that load.
Yeah, I saw that tweet, and the first thing, it wasn't like Chris Dunn's our guy, but it was kind of like Chris Dunn's our guy kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Where I don't know I like John Morant, I like what he does, but I might be furious. It might be what pick was that? What pick was I really angry at a couple years ago? There was one.
Help us out.
It was the Tony Snell pick. It might be another Tony Snell pick.
Tony Snell was not a top pick.
30th.
That was towards the end. It was,
and he's now a quality NBA.
But it was one of those picks where I remember on draft night bashing that pick. I thought there was different players we could have taken there. Of course, I know we were a lot better of a team back then. But I mean, I would kind of be upset if we took John Morant over an RJ or a Cam.
We wasted another pick on Denzel Washington, Denzel Valentine, and
see, but I liked Denzel in college, so I mean, I wasn't mad at that. And then he played in the NBA, and I was
let's
like,
go get
Denzel.
a big tweener.
I think Pat also said Marcus Teague.
Yeah, Marcus Teague.
Yikes.
We've had some misses.
And Thibodeau wanted to draft Draymond, and we got Marcus Teague instead.
Yeah.
So, and again, that goes back to front office ineptitude, which we're dealing with. So let's get into prediction time about what will happen. What will the Bulls look like? Let's say come June 23rd in the NBA draft. Let's say they have a top 5 pick. I think it would be unlikely if they didn't. Pat, what are your predictions for the Bulls on June 23rd? Is GarPax still going to be in power? Is Jim Boylan still going to be the head coach? What do you think is going to be the look of the Bulls going into the 2019-2020 season?
I think at the end of the season we'll probably still have Guard and Pax there because every source has said that nope, they're safe. Nothing has changed as of yet. But I think they will give some press conference relieving Jim Boylan, saying he didn't give us the grit and toughness we thought. We were out of games and we should not have been out of games. And I think they would, but what I would hope that they would do, and I really hope this prediction comes true, is that they'll actually interview more head coaching candidates and not be so specifically set on one candidate like they were with Fred Hoiberg. Because they interviewed him and only him last time they interviewed for a job. And my prediction would be that they go and find someone that will include this modern offense and adjust to the players' strengths, and someone that the players will actually get along with and understand. And I don't think they like Jim Boylan. I would like Jim Boylan if I had to play for him. So my prediction is that GarPax stays, Boylan's gone. They'll have some top 5 pick at this point. I don't know which pick they'll have, but yeah, that's all I can predict for right now.
I hear Luke Walton might be available.
How would you guys like that addition if Luke Walton was available?
I wouldn't hate it.
Pat?
Wouldn't dislike it, but I don't think he's gotten as much out of the Lakers as he should have. And I think the Lakers have more talent right now, young talent, than we do. So that doesn't give me a ton of confidence.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't hate it.
Dave, what's your prediction for the 2019-2020 season?
Oh, we're rolling in the same exact way we rolled out. We're keeping everybody safe. Nobody's getting hurt. Boylan, if he gets the axe, it'll be during next season or at the end of the next season. The problem with me is we're stuck almost, even though we have a high draft pick, I feel like for some reason there's going to be an expectation that we're going to land someone in free agency that is, a star or a superstar quality player.
Like who?
I mean,
who's coming to Chicago?
That's my point.
There's some stupid theories. There was a theory, I think, on one of Dave Kaplan's shows where so I think they could trade, if they got the number 1 pick, they could trade him and Markkanen for Anthony Davis, and then they would get Kawhi Leonard to come there. I'm like, are you kidding me? That's your theory? That's your plan?
We've been waiting for Anthony Davis for a long time in Chicago. But no, I mean, that's the thing. Is like this year is the mega free agency bowl. You know, it's we'll see who's going where. And I think we all sort of have an inkling that no one's coming to Chicago. But for some reason, I think we're going to go ahead and give another bad contract out. Like, why is Felicio making this much money? Don't know. Rolling with it.
But is he a superstar?
No. But Bobby Portis.
Is he a
due for
superstar?
a contract? No. But do you think we're going to
Zach
pay him
LaVine a
$15 million
superstar?
a year?
Yes, but here's the thing. Name the last time that they've brought in a superstar through free agasy. Carlos Boozer's not a superstar, and he was maybe the closest thing to star level. And that's the thing.
Paul Gasol.
You can't. And you're saying but Paul Gasol was old. He needed another. Like, people weren't sold that Paul Gasol was a guy anymore. He was 35 years old.
They were wrong.
The thing with you're saying is that GarPax is now going to be staying there, and they're going to try to sign a star or superstar. They haven't been able to do that in the past 15 years. What's now going to be the reason why? That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
What were you saying?
I was just saying.
If there's a miscommunication,
I was
sorry.
just saying, what is the expectation for agency? Is it that we're going to sign a star, or is it that we're going to waste our money on another Jabari-esque, let's go take a risk on a player, and, if it pans out, great for us, but if not, you can't be mad at us. And that's what I'm afraid of.
GarPax doesn't get fired, although I think I think they should. He should, they should. Most interesting thing, it should. Send him to the moon.
Shoot him.
Shoot him to the moon.
Shoot him.
Same thing. But the most interesting thing I saw on Twitter that I retweeted, and this is about, because Boylan, I want him gone in the offseason because he's not going to help us. And there's a tweet from Jared Dudley that said, been hearing about how good Rondo has been with young players since he has played for the Bulls, and went on about his IQ and stuff. Bulls scripted a tweet that I would be behind 110%. He said if Rondo were to retire for some odd reason, he would be the first head coach candidate on my list. Bulls' young core all took to Rondo. Coaches don't like him because he challenges their knowledge and authority. Players and teammates respect the hell out of him. And I'm like, you know what? Although he wouldn't have experience, he's a guy that I would be like, you know what? Let him be our coach because he'll develop the young players and then have an assistant that could maybe help him with schemes, because I don't know how Rondo is with tactics and schemes. Exactly
genius.
What Boylan is not doing.
So, not to crush your party, because I would love it if it happened.
I'm
Rondo's
just saying,
already
what
come
if?
out. Rondo's not retiring unless he literally gets physically beaten down and broken to the point of never returning. B, he's come out and said, well, he would like to work in the front office rather than coaching because he thinks he can make a larger impact on a franchise. I don't think he's ruled out coaching like Kobe Bryant did.
Yeah.
But it seems like he's more aiming at a front office role in his post-basketball time.
Unless they came out, and the thing I would say is unless they come out and say no for sure, I'd always leave open the possibility.
Here's what I would say is maybe I would say 50% that GarPax gets fired or stays on.
You guys are best odds here.
That's
We're throwing
I think
a
it's
party today.
I think it's 50-50. I don't know how they
Pat,
haven't
you're
been.
coming.
I don't know how it hasn't happened already. And the fact that the writings on the wall that they should be fired means that it's most likely not going to happen. But I'll still put it at 50-50 that they will be. If Jim Boylan is the head coach next year, I will be absolutely shocked. I think this is going to be a player's revolt if he is still the head coach at the end of the year heading into next year. Because at some point, these players are going to turn on him if they haven't already.
Zach LaVine's starting.
Well, I think they're walking the line as close as they possibly can before actually they're revolting. And I think once the offseason hits, if there's not movement and rumors of him being fired, there is going to be a revolt, and they're going to go to Jerry or Michael's office and tell them that he needs to be fired. I don't see any way that these players would want to show up to work and work for Jim Boylan, a person that they clearly have despised, and it's only been, I think, a month and about 30-something days. He was hired on December 3rd, and somehow in the past month and 25 days, or 25-plus days, he has already turned these players on.
Question for you, non-Bulls fan.
Yeah.
Do you think, let's say Zach LaVine, let's say they don't move Boylan, do you think it would ever get to a point where he would say, let's say he went to GarPax and said he's got to go, and GarPax said no. Do you think he would go, fine, him or me, get rid of him or trade me.
I think that there would be a possibility not only of Levine, but I think of multiple players just being like, he's putting me at a risk. Like this could be a thing that they take up with the NBA Players Association. Like, this is something that, they're causing him money. They're causing him development. He's causing them just the ability to grow and become the best players that they possibly can be. They are limited by Jim Boylen being the head coach. It's been clear. It's clear by every Bulls fan. It's clear by everybody in Chicago. It's clear to every media personality in Chicago. It's clear to everybody besides GarPax, Jerry Reinsdorf, Michael Reinsdorf, and Jim Boylen. The players are even clear to it. So if they're not revolting by this point and coming out clearly in the media, or even just going to Jerry or Michael's office at the point of next season or next off season, I'd be absolutely shocked. There is no way that he is going to be the head coach next year. And if he is, I would honestly implore Chicago Bulls fans to at least look for a different team. Because if a team's going to spit in your face like this and spit into the player's face like this, it's a less integral move than the actual process. I think it'd be a horrible mistake to continue with Jim Boylen as your head coach. But let's go final thoughts. Pat, obviously you want this to be the end for GarPax. I think everyone in Chicago does. But what's at least the positive note that you could possibly leave us with for your Patreon segment?
Positive note. All right, let's.
I know it's tough. It's probably the hardest question I've asked you so far.
Okay, the positive thing I will say that while they've made a lot of stupid decisions, like I will admit that a lot of their decisions have not been that bad. They did swing off the Jimmy Butler trade, which at the time I thought like, okay, I actually like that move a lot, even though everybody at the time hated. I did like that they drafted Wendell Carter because I do think he is very promising, even though he had a bad end to the year. But I do like that. But I think this team just needs to be set in a better direction where they can improve now. Because obviously their coach is not helping them get better. They don't have the depth to keep them in games and help lean on them. So if they were somehow able to spend their money not on another Jabari Parker, but guys who can back up Levine and Dunn and Hutchinson and Markkanen and actually help them learn and teach them how to be professionals and get a coach who can teach them a modern offense, then I think they might show actual improvement next year. So I don't think the direction is so far off that it can't be righted, but it's on the onus of the front office to actually right that. And I don't know if they do, but I know that it's not that hard to do so.
Dave, final thoughts.
Shoot him to the moon. That's it. Keep it short and sweet.
I like Pat's great statement, and then you just kept it short. Ricky, final thoughts.
I feel like GarPax ain't going anywhere. Hopefully Boylen gets the boot. That's all we can hope for right now.
We will see if they get the firing that they deserve.
I'm telling you, if they do, we're throwing a party. Bill's coming, Pat's coming. We
might have to fly Jake out here just for sympathetic.
Jake has nothing to do with the Bulls.
I know that's
it's sympathy.
Bill
we
and
need
Pat
everybody
for sure.
involved.
Right. They're coming.
If you want an invite to the cookout, the GarPax firing party, hit us up on Twitter. We do want to thank Pat for a back-to-back great patron segments. Shout out to Pat. Shout out to Bill. They brought the fire. They brought the intensity. They brought the great statements. It was a good patron. And we're gonna blame Ricky. We had two great segments back to back, and he didn't set these up for the past couple of weeks or months. I'm sorry. So thanks, Ricky. Thanks to Pat for being on. We appreciate your patronage and loyalty. And go fight in Atlanta, right?
Yeah. Did you almost say Irish?
I was gonna say Irish.
Paxton went to Notre Dame, so I don't think go Irish is the right way.
That's brutal. Anyways, that's going to do it for the Fast Break Podcast. Again, we want to give a big thanks to Pat and Bill. Obviously, thanks to Ricky Widmer and Dave Oster for being on the podcast with me, as always. I'm Sean Anderson. Don't forget to check us out on iTunes. Search The Fast Break. Check us out on patreon.com/mostvaluedpodcast. If you want to be like the great Pat and Bill, you can be on a segment, talk about your topic of choice, and then also check us out on Twitter, twitter.com/mostvaluedpod. You can talk to us over there. Give us your thoughts and opinions. That's going to do it for the Fast Break Podcast. Again, thanks to Pat, Bill, for Dave Oster, for Ricky Widmer. I'm Sean Anderson. We'll see you next time.